Welcome everyone to the Meet the Candidates night. The Bryan Area Chamber of Commerce is glad that you're here this evening. My name is Dan Yaris. I'm the Executive Director. We want to throw out a big thanks to Tine Winery and Tap House, BMU TV, TV 26, the Bryan Times, Q96.5, WQCT, and also to our chairman of our committee, Bob Golding. Please silence your cell phones if you haven't done so already. And couple reminders, we are streaming live on Facebook, so please be respectful of the bandwidth so we can continue to do that. The radio and 2 TV crews are here also, so we ask you to please refrain from outbursts during the session, and no questions will be taken from the audience. Thanks, and please help me welcome our 2 candidates, Brian Davis and Scott Leroux, and our moderators, Ron Osborne and Jim Funderburg. Jim, it's all yours.
All right, thanks, Dan, and thanks for everybody coming out tonight. We got a great crowd on hand, and thank you as well to Drop Time. And thank you to you two guys, first of all, because you know, in the world that we live in nowadays, to get people to run for offices and honestly have a desire to run and a desire to take over the jobs and the responsibilities and the headaches to go with it is getting to be harder and harder and harder every day. So in both of your cases, I really appreciate your running. Whatever happens on November 6th, you know, it's a wonderful situation that guys like you will take the time and throw your hat in the ring, and then if you do get elected, take the job and do the best that you possibly can. I want to start things out, guys, with something that I kind of was noodling around, because you know how it is around Northwest Ohio. No matter where you go, somebody's always hitting you with something. On Facebook the other day, I had my face on a Facebook post with Mr. Scott Leroux and a couple of gentlemen. In fact, one of them sitting right over here next to us at a fundraiser that we were at. So I had a couple of people that stopped me, as you always will, and I think all you public servants understand that, and say, well, gee, man, you're going to moderate this debate, and obviously you're a fan of Scott Leroux. And I said to that point, you know, that's an interesting question. And so there are questions like that all around the city of Bryan and the county, and I've got one that I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to ask you guys a couple. How's that? Here's my answer to that question. The last time Mr. Davis ran, I voted for Mr. Davis. The last time Mr. Leroux ran, I voted for Mr. Leroux. On November 6th, I'm going to try to figure out which guy I want to cast my vote for and then take over a very important job in this county. And I'm not sure exactly who I'm going to vote for tonight, and I'm hoping that tonight will help me make up my mind a little bit, and I hope that it will also help the folks who are in this room and also the folks that are watching out on Facebook at this point in time. So let's go with a couple of those. The guy on the street said, well, Scotty, the guy on the street told me the other day that the only reason you want this job is for the money and the insurance. Tell me a little bit about that. Any truth to that?
How much does it pay?
I don't even know. How much does it pay, Mr. Commissioner?
You'd have to ask my wife.
Okay. She gets the paycheck.
Yeah.
I can tell you, for most folks in most days, it's probably not enough. And it's probably, my guess is, what is it nowadays, Ron? Can you tell?
$43,000 a year.
There you go.
That's news to me right there. So
okay.
I can tell you that.
Actually, I think that January 1, this seat, I'm the lowest paid commissioner of the 3.
Okay.
Because there was a change that happened, and I was in term, which you cannot have compensation change while in term. So I think it's about 48,000, 48,500, something like that.
Okay.
January 1.
With some benefits, with medical benefits and those types of things?
Yes, you can get health care.
And PERS?
PRs instead of Social Security.
Yeah.
And stuff, and you make contributions towards your health care.
There you go. So Scott, I guess the answer to that question is, you know, you didn't even know how much it was. So why are you running, I guess?
I knew it was somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000, and I knew there was medical benefits with that, and I can tell you that was not the consideration at all when I decided to run. My wife and I talked about this long and hard. There's been some things, some issues in the county that's bothered me, and I'm not the one that's just going to stand back and complain about it. I'm going to put up or shut up, and so I jumped in on this solely for that reason. I retired from Chase Brass 3 years ago. I do very well in the rental business. I have a carry out in town that, believe it or not, I really don't take anything out of. Coffee in the morning and maybe beer in the evening. But I'm very well off. I'm comfortable in my lifestyle, and so I'll tell you that it was the money was not a consideration.
Okay?
By
Bryan,
the way, I'd like to say one more thing.
Sure.
My name is pronounced Leroux.
Leroux, okay?
My nickname is Leroux.
It always has been.
Call me what you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
All right. Bryan, in that same little walk that I was taking that day, I had a guy tell me, you know, that Davis guy, the only reason he's running is because he's looking for that gravy train retirement, man. If he just keeps going, he knows he's a Republican in this county and he's going to win with hands down, and it should be an easy deal, and it's just easy money for the guy. Any response to that?
Well, I don't know what they mean by a gravy train retirement. Since I've come into office, PERS has made changes to the retirement. I'll never get health care benefits. I'll pay for health care just like everyone else will when I leave office. You do get a retirement based on your years of service, just like you would to Social Security. But there's no gravy train at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I think these are the things that always float around Northwest Ohio or any other town. And there are several other questions, I'm sure, that are the same way, but I thought a good icebreaker tonight was at least to answer those three as we get started, and I appreciate the answer. Ron?
Hi, Ron Osborne from the Bryan Times, and I want to thank you guys also for your interest
You're
in
welcome.
public service and for showing up tonight.
You're welcome.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about some specific qualifications you have for this job? Let's start with Scott.
Well, I think other than the state Ohio Revised Code, you have to be 18 and live in the county.
And live in the county, exactly.
I've
Those
got
are the two
that covered.
qualifications.
I've been in Williams County for 55 years. Born here in the Bryan Cameron Hospital. Delivered by Dr. Don Cameron, actually. My qualifications, I believe, is you have to have a passion for your county, truthfully. If you don't care about the place that you live, that's got to be the first thing you'd have to think about. I really care about the county. I care about the way things run. I care about the citizens. I want to see good things happen for our county. My qualifications as far as business, I suspect that would help a lot. I work with people on a daily basis. I've run budgets for my own business. I have a good understanding of a lot of things that happen in the as far as, you know, it's a tough question to go on when you're trying to toot your own horn, you know, but I have a passion for the job. I have to say that. I mean, I think I've proven that in the past. I care about people, and I think if you care about people, that's first and foremost. As far as budgets go, I do budgets. I've done construction projects where you do bidding. I'm familiar with that sort of thing. You know, I had this all rehearsed and had everything picked out, but I really have a hard time tooting my own horn. But I would think my biggest thing is I have a passion for the county. When I see something wrong, I want to fix it. I roll up my sleeves, I get into it, I work hard, and I have a lot of people around me. I have a lot of contacts, a lot of people that I can call on for any type of advice. And I'm willing to do the work, I'm willing to do the studying.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Bryan, the same?
Repeat your question again.
What
Sorry.
specific qualifications, such as schooling, physical or management experience, human resources, do you currently hold that will enable you to fulfill this position? Or that has
Well, I think-
enabled you?
Yeah, I think that the last 12 years indicate that I can do the position. One of the things that you get involved in, when I first became commissioner, one of the first meetings I actually attended was Williams Center, and they were looking at having a sewer put in, and they were looking at a cost that the citizens were concerned about, that they were not going to be able to afford based on their household incomes and stuff. And so I started just simply asking questions, making phone calls, building relationships, and that's what I've done for the last 12 years. When I make decisions, the way I make them is what is the best for the majority. You can't single out a single group or a portion of a county, but your decisions have to be based on that factor. I deal with budgets every day. I deal with $14 million budget every day with the other two commissioners, and there's 13 elected officials in the county, and so you have to balance your decisions that treat them each equally, give them each the respect that they are due. And so I guess my qualifications are the last 12 years of my history.
Scotty, you've got kind of a fiery personality, and Bryan, you're kind of the opposite, okay? Why do those two personalities work best for this job? Bryan, why don't you start this time?
Well, I mean, I guess I don't quite understand how to answer the question. I mean, you have to have the ability just to be able to listen. And you have to have the understanding that the one thing you learn when you come from private sector to government is that in private sector, Scott can make a decision tomorrow. He can hire an employee, he can buy a car, he can take a trip, he can do whatever he wants, because in the private sector, you're responsible for yourself. In the county, there's other things that you have to consider. You have to consider the impact to the budget, you have to consider the impact to the department, impact to the individual that's involved and stuff. And so my personality is I try to take and I try to look at things from this is what I want to do, this is what I want to accomplish, but realistically, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, what's the impact going to be? Because there always is going to be an impact. So you're trying to not only take care of the need of the moment, but you're also trying to discern how it'll impact down the road. And one of the things you have to be careful of is the things you do. The main thing you have to be concerned about is how does it impact the finances?
Are there days where you're kind of a fiery personality that we just don't see?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, is there days I get upset? Certainly there's days I get upset, and there's days that I'm disgusted, days that I'm tired. I'm just like anybody else. I mean, I'm just who I am.
Scotty, you're just, I guess if anybody would just know you the way that I know both of you, you kind of portray just the opposite. Bold and brash, out there in front. Why is that a good characteristic for a commissioner?
You know, you're right, I get very impassioned on a subject, and when I do, I don't let go of it. You got to get out there. I don't know, it's just the way I am. I see something, I want to research it, I want to know facts. I don't want hearsay. I like to look into things, I like to research things, and by God, if I find something that's wrong and not right, I can't shut my mouth. I talk to everybody about it. My poor friends during that Lick Creek battle, every single one of them went down the creek with me at least once. And then after that, they're usually decided I'm crazy. Something hits me wrong, and I can't just sit still and not do anything about it. And there's a few issues I don't like in the county right now, and I'd like to get up and do something about it. And like I say, I've been retired for 3 years from my factory job, which enabled me a lot of time at the time, because I only worked 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday, for 33 years, and that left me a lot of time during the week to take up whatever it is I wanted to do. And when I saw, just like that Lick Creek project, I saw that was wrong, it bothered me, I couldn't not do it. So I think that fire personality, and I think that's why I have so many friends and people around me, because they I guess they just have to listen to me. I'm usually the one in the room talking, even though I'm trying my best to not. But I know it's very important to listen to people, let them finish their sentence, and not butt in. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not that way. I will listen to people thoroughly and let them finish their statement. And by God, if they don't let me finish mine, I'm going to tell them, wait a minute here, I let you finish, and I'll let me finish. But in the fact that I collect the facts, I've had to read the Ohio Revised Code, I've had to read it and understand it. It takes me a minute to do that sort of thing, but by God, if there's something going on, and I know about it, and I don't like it, I will research it, I will give you the facts, and that's all there is to it. And if it's not right, I'm not going to let go of it.
To Bryan's point, there are times when the private sector can't do or can do more things than the public sector can do. Do you think you can fit in with that type of day when the three of you commissioners have to sit down and come to an agreement?
Oh, heck yes. One thing about my memory, I've got a really good memory, it's just not very long. So when people say bad things about me and people say things, I forget about it. I don't remember it. It's not important. There's a greater good to look for. You have to be able to sit down and talk with people. You have to be able to figure it out together. No one person is ever going to figure out all the problems that we have in Williams County. Not that we have a lot of big problems. I mean, I think the county we've got a great county. Right now we have a huge issue, as everybody knows about, and I'm ready for it. So,
Okay.
yeah, I can work with people. Absolutely I can.
All right. It's about 18 minutes almost after the hour, 7 o'clock. Part of the radio business is paying the bills, like everybody knows in the audience, I think. So it's time for us to step away and take our first break of the day.
The hands-on training and education at Northwest State opens doors for good paying career opportunities with great local manufacturers. That helps me, my family, and my community.
It's been said a million times, there's nothing in the world more important than family. We understand that at Oberlin Turnbull Funeral Home and Crematory. Our entire staff is like family to us. They are some of the most caring, thoughtful, and dedicated people in our industry. In fact, our newest members are part of my family. When the time comes for your family to say goodbye, remember our family, Oberlin Turnbull Funeral Home and Crematory, in Bryan, Sherwood, West Unity, and Hamilton.
They say there is strength in numbers. In Bryan, we have always taken pride in supporting our Golden Bear student athletes in all of their sporting endeavors. The Bryan Athletic Boosters now have a chance for you to get into the game. If you're Bryan proud, it's time to become Bryan strong. Whether you were a BHS athlete, are raising a BHS athlete, or just love supporting our Bryan High School athlete, this is your chance to be part of the BHS sporting community. Talk to any board member today on how easy it is to join, or contact us at 419-636-4536.
The academic advisors at Northwest State are here to help you develop and stick with a great education plan so you can get where you want to go. All roads begin at Northwest State.
Welcome back into the Meet the Candidates night here at the Drop Tine, and we had a nice conversation off mic here tonight, and it was, come on, let's hear about some of the issues that are around here right now. You guys warmed up? Are you feeling better? This is always a tough thing, to sit in a room that's warm with a lot of people in a suit and tie and have people ask you questions. So the first segment, we needed to get you to basically just stretch your legs just a little bit. How's that, okay? Sounds good. And now we need to get into some things that are going to be a little bit more, I think, to the liking of some of the folks that are out there right now. All right, Ryan, why don't you get yours started then? How's that?
Let's get into some specific issues then. And of course, we'll start with one. Artesian Pioneer proposed a plan, and it appears to be legal to drill into the Machindo and sell that water to entities outside the county. What's your position on that, Scott? Do you oppose it, or are you for it or against it?
Oh my Lord, yes, I oppose that. Mm-hmm. It's the most ridiculous. We're in an aquifer that we don't have water anywhere else. This aquifer obviously has a limit to what you can pump out of it. Anything you take out of our aquifer is going to diminish anything that we can use in our aquifer. Once one guy does that over here, don't think you're not going to have a guy doing it over here, here, and here. And eventually, maybe it's going to be 50 years from now, maybe 25 years from now, they're going to say, whoa, stop. We can't do this anymore. Let's make a law. Well, if we can make it 50 years from now, we can make it today. We need to get the people involved. We need to get this figured out, how we're going to stop this. From my understanding, it's going to start at the county level. We need to get the county commissioners from all the areas. Let's find out who the players are. Let's find out who is in and who's out. Because I can tell you, if they're out, they got an idea that they're going to do it too. This isn't just going to be a state level. This is I don't know all about this, but I'm thinking when you got 3 states involved, doesn't that make it a federal issue? Let's get these people together, and let's get them together now. I can't believe there's not a meeting every damn week. This is something This is something we can't let go. We can't wait. We got to do it now. And what's the first thing we're going to lose? You've got top pressure on this aquifer. I mean, nobody knows nobody knows anything about this aquifer, but I do know this. You got water coming out of the ground in Hillsdale. You got it coming out of the ground on the south side, east side, west side. Water comes out of the ground all over this aquifer. They're trying to tell me rainwater supplies this aquifer with water. Well, you tell me how you run a garden hose up in the air and dump a sprinkler can in and expect that to get down into that. This thing is positively pressurized. That water's come from somewhere, we don't know where. We don't even know where it's coming from. So how on earth can we leave this go without doing? There's got to be an injunction. We got to slow this down. We got to stop. We got to say, wait, let's do some testing. There ain't no way in heck this guy should be able to do that sort of thing, or anybody else. We need to stop this. We need to stop it now. We need to work on it day and night, get it done. Why our state representative, Jim Hoops, hasn't jumped in here, and he's still collecting information. We need to get something going. We need to get now, and if it's going, then let us know it's going. If you just want to sit there and go to meeting, that ain't doing it. And I'm here to tell you, if I get in here, I will be screaming from the courthouse bell tower, let's get something done. I am adamantly opposed to it. I don't want it to happen. I don't want anybody else to, because I guarantee you, if this clown gets something going over here, somebody's already waiting in the wings to do it down to Fort Wayne or do it down over this way. We got the best water in the world, Montpelier water right here. Let's get on top of it. Let's get moving. Let's not wait. Let's do something.
Okay. Bryan, can you tell us kind of some of the things you've been doing and what you intend to continue to do, reference to Machindo?
Well, I mean, you know, it was reported in the Bryan Times and stuff. We've had 2 meetings right now with the 9 counties. One of the struggles you have with that is you have 9 counties, and not all counties have 3 commissioners. And in the state of Ohio, they do. Like in Hillsdale, I think they have 7. So trying to get a majority of them together, because they don't, you know, they may meet 2 days a month versus 2 days a week. So we've had 2 meetings. Right now we're working on, we've met with ODNR and we've met with the Ohio EPA, and Senator McCollum and Representative Hoops were in the meetings. And the 2 things, and we've been sitting down talking with Mr. Watson, the 2 things that we think that we want to see happen is you have the Great Lakes Compact, and in the Great Lakes Compact, one of the provisions is that you cannot take water outside of the boundaries of the compact. You can't export water. So what we want to do is, at the state, is we want them to create a bill that would give us the same designation in the Machindo for the 9 counties, so you wouldn't be able to export. Then the second thing is we believe it's time to start monitoring wells, not necessarily residential, but bigger user wells, so that you know what the health of your aquifer is, whether or not you have stressed areas. If you have a business that's coming in, they want to site in a location, and in that location they're going to use X amount of water, they probably would like to be able to know that that would be available or wouldn't be available because of where they want to place themselves. So that's what we're doing. I mean, this is government. You know, it goes back to my comment between private and government. Things move slow. They have to craft a bill. The bill has to go into committee. They have to take testimony. It's just a process and stuff. I mean, the Ohio Supreme Court has ruled that a landowner owns the mineral water rights from the surface of his ground to the center of the earth. So we have to have it changed through legislative forms.
Do you understand, Bryan, it was a point you made the other day. Do you understand that to be that when it gets to be water, even though the water's coming maybe from off of his property, that still is part of those land rights at this moment? Is that the understanding of the commissioners at this point?
I understand that from reading the decision by the Ohio Supreme Court, it simply refers to the fact that it is the mineral and water contained within his land.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I also understand that if you take and you put a well on the land and you move enough volume, you create a cone and you start pulling from properties beside your property. You start to create a vacuum, and so it will actually ultimately interfere with other properties.
And any estimate as to time that that's going to take to go through a political process like that?
The Ohio EPA said that they wouldn't permitting process would take 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
And he has not filed for a permit. He can do agricultural wells because they're not permitted, because they're not potable. So if he wanted to put it in just to see a flow rate, he could do that. But ultimately, he's going to have to go back, and then part of the process, he's going to have to actually physically stress the aquifer, because that's how they'll be able to determine whether or not it can actually provide that amount of water and who it affects.
Mm-hmm. And he could potentially do that with an agricultural designation without going through the EPA?
He eventually has to go to the EPA for permits, and then that's when he's going to have to put in the wells that he would use. That would then also, some of the processing would be, he'd have to stress the area, the aquifer, so that they could determine, you know, the amount of water, as well as, you know, the cone of influence is what it's called.
Scott, when you hear those kind of things, any ideas to try to speed things up or make things happen that you've done in any homework that you've done?
So what about our streams and rivers? Everybody wants to test these wells. What's the first thing you're going to lose? It's going to be your top pressure. Every stream in Williams County, Lick Creek, Beaver Creek, Lost Creek, they're all filled with aquifer water. You go down there right now, you've got water running. It's not coming from the rain, it's coming from the aquifer. What's the first thing you're going to lose? If you lose your top pressure, what if you buy all the land around that creek? What if you own, I mean, these guys are going to own, how many acres are they going to have to do here to produce that much water? They're going to own a damn square mile.
It's going to be
Several.
from everything that
Several.
you would
So is
estimate
that
right
okay?
now. You're right.
Why can't we get some testing out there right now? Why can't we start our own testing? That doesn't take a act of God or act of Congress. Why don't we take some? Why don't we get a hold of somebody and say, let's get one of our own water guys? We got Montpelier, Bryan, we got all these towns. Well, see, did Montpelier do anything or not? They're just kind of sitting on the side. They passed some sort of resolution, didn't they? They all have something to lose here. Let's get together. Let's put our heads together. Let's do some stream testing. Do some flow monitoring. And because that's the first thing you're going to lose. Get up there. We all know he's doing it over there by Fulton County. Can't we get some? I mean, I get it. I get it. It's tough. You can't go on people's property. You can't trespass. Can't do this. But I can guarantee there's people around that don't want this in that area as well. Has anybody reached out to those people and said, let's do this? There's a lot of hunters and fishermen out there. I mean, there's a lot of farmers. They don't want to lose their groundwater. I think there's some things we can do. We can get involved today to start this. So I believe we should have a record of our ground, of our surface water that's running into these streams. I think we should start testing today. They should have started testing a month ago. It's not rocket science. You get a little dealie, it spins, you stick it in the creek, you can record what you have. Let's start a recording now.
Okay. Anything either one of you guys want to add to that?
We're looking about doing, Southern Ohio did what they call, it's called OKI, which is Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and it's a council of government. And we're working, we know Indiana is willing to do it, and they're capable of doing it. We're working with Michigan to determine whether or not their laws allow them to do it. So then what happens is the 9 affected counties can actually become one, and then you can move forward. There's a mechanism that you can seek grants, federal grants, and not just for water. There's many other opportunities, economic growth, road and bridges, and all kinds of things. But one thing it does is allows the 9 counties to then work not only as one, but also to be able to expend funds and create a pool of money to do monitoring and do these types of things. But you got to put the basics in place. And until you get the basics in place, you just can't. There's just things you can't do. I mean, it's just.
If you're elected, Bryan, do you pledge to do whatever's in your power to continue to fight against the Machindo plan?
Absolutely. I've got grandchildren here. I'm going to be here until they bury me. You know, and absent of water in this county, there'll be a lot of real estate for sale. It'll be pretty cheap. So, yes, I will continue to work on it.
Okay. Let's talk money. Bryan, you kind of had always taken the lead on the budget for the county. I've sat in 3 years of those meetings. We've always been razor thin. What do we look like this year so far and going forward?
Actually, this year, I mean, through the end of September, we're up about 6.7%. So we have an unencumbered general fund balance of somewhere around 4.3, 4.5 million. I think when I came into office, we were at about 2.8. Things are actually better than we anticipated. The economy is better than we anticipated. Some of the areas that you would think that we would be doing better in, we're not, but in areas that we thought we would not be, we are. So balance across the balance and stuff, we're doing much better. I mean, costs are going up. I mean, you have things that healthcare insurance rose last year. We had an increase in 2019 that we'll have, and when you have a healthcare budget that runs about $4.8 million, you know, 5% increase is a significant increase. But all in all, the fund balance looks rather good.
I want to give you an opportunity to get in here. What do you know about the county budget? Have you been to some meetings? Have you caught up with the county budget? Your input?
Well, no, personally, no. I know the county budget, what, like $33 million?
44?
$34 million. And
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the general fund budget for this year is just over 14 million. If you take a look at, you know, you have to look at the county county budget in two fashions. One's kind of like a clearinghouse. So anything or anyone that gets grants, property taxes, whatever the case may be, school systems, whatever, it'll come into the auditor. So it'll show us part of the budget, but in actuality, it's already earmarked. So any grants that the courts have, any of those types of things. So you have what we call A line items. And the A line items is the general fund. That's about 14 million. And then all this other stuff, which I think total somewhere around $42 million total, that's stuff that's already designated, pre-spent, can't be touched.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know very little about, I mean, the county budget, but I don't suspect very many people do that aren't dealing with it on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I would certainly be willing to study that sort of thing when the time comes.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Time for us to take another break here and to meet the candidates night.
One thing that hasn't changed here at Bryan Ford Lincoln is our commitment to service. It's in everything we do. It's in our mission statement. Our goal is simple: customers for life. Kick back in our newly renovated service lounge or business center. We pick up and deliver throughout the local area at no charge. So the next time you need service on your Ford or competitive make vehicle, come out and see us at Bryan Ford Lincoln and see why we've earned Ford Motor Company's President's Award 7 times running.
There comes a time when every family is faced with the difficult choice of aftercare for a family companion. In the past, your choices were limited to burial or cremation. Now there's a better option, Aquamation. It's a gentle, more responsible alternative that allows you to honor the loss of your companion without harming the environment. Aquamation is a simple process similar to Mother Nature's own that allows the family to retain more of their companion's remains. To find out more, call or stop by Creel Funeral Service today. You don't always see them, and they don't always see you. That's the time to call Jason Dietz Collisions and Customs in Edgerton. Many of today's vehicles feature very durable and lightweight aluminum construction, and we are proud to be one of the few shops in the area with the proper tools and certified technicians to bring that aluminum beauty back to life. Jason Dietz Collisions and Customs on State Route 6 on the east side of Edgerton.
Keeping children safe on Ohio school buses is a priority for the Ohio State Highway Patrol. This is Lieutenant Bob Aschenfelder of the Defiance Post. Safety on the roadway is a shared responsibility. Even though motorists are required to stop as a safety measure, children should always look both ways before crossing the street and remain alert to any sudden traffic changes. Together, we can make this a safe school year.
We want to talk about Lick Creek, and can we be concise as possible? There's been some discrepancy about your respective roles in Lick Creek. Maybe you can explain a little bit about what it was, Bryan, and talk about your role in that, and then Scott, yours as well.
Okay. I think the original petition with Lick Creek was filed around 2005 under what's called Revised Code 1515. And that's just, there's two different ways you can file. But in that one, At the end of the day, each commissioner had a vote, and if it ended in a tie, it was over with. It didn't go any further, it didn't go to any courts or anything like that. So I was involved in that because it concluded, I think, in 2007, and ended in a tie. And then Defiance came back under 6133, which is a joint ditch, which has a different ramification in the manner in which that process works. Is the 3 commissioners from both counties vote, but anytime there's a tie, it then is referred to the director of ODNR, and his agent then comes up and casts the tie-breaking vote. So it was at a period of time where we went through the viewing and the first hearing and the final hearing and all these things, and we had all these votes, and they always ended in a deadlock, and it always went down to ODNR. And ultimately, the deciding factor was 2 judges, Judge Schmeich and Judge Stelzer, and we met in their chambers. I don't even remember when it was, 2000.
I think it was 14.
I was thinking 13, but 14, you're probably right. But the commissioners and the judges and their legal counsels met in the chambers, and the judges says, "We're done, gentlemen. Enough is enough. You know, everybody's suing everybody, and it's over with. And as long as we're on the bench, we won't be discussing this again." And so that was the end result. So, but it was a long, long process to get there. So that's just in a nutshell.
You had a major role to play in it, as I understand, and it might have been one of the factors thinking about public service, maybe running as a county commissioner.
I don't know if I actually ever considered that at the time, but I never really was much into politics back then. But and I'll tell you right now, Bryan and I, we talked a lot during that Lick Creek deal. It was 4.5 years, and we talked a lot because Defiance County were scammers. Them sons of guns. They spent attorney's fees of, oh geez, I'm thinking it was around $8,000 to $10,000 before the petition was ever filed. Well, if you don't have a petition, how do you have an attorney fee? Well, the Defiance County hired Shoemaker, Loop, and Kendrick out of Toledo at $175 an hour and used them. You know, I shouldn't even quote that price. It was thousands of dollars. So that, and this is the problem with that. Later on, after, okay, the counties had their votes. It was a tie. Brought in Sean Logan from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. He's a tie-breaking vote. He only received the information that Defiance County would send them. And that was one of the points of injunction, is Defiance County withheld information. They withheld all the information from our boys. I'd go to Williams County to do a FOIA request, and they said, well, you have to go to Defiance County because that's where the petition was filed. And I get out the ORC, and I've been reading and said, Bryan, look here. The Defiance County clerk is now the joint board clerk, and they have to give you all the paperwork. They can't keep it. So Bryan got on the horn, and he called down there. He says, hey, look, we want the paperwork. Well, then now Defiance County would only send them the paperwork they wanted to. They never sent them the paperwork from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources that when their yes vote came in, they said, we're very concerned about the endangered species in this project. We don't want you, we're concerned about the sediments that you're going to create. We don't want you doing two-sided construction, which is basically the way they do this. They rape these streams nowadays, one-side construction. That would have cut, and they didn't want them taking sandbars out. That would have cut the project in half because they're only doing one side now. They were doing both sides, 50 feet both sides, taking out all the log jams, all the sandbars, turning it into a ditch. Well, the Department of Natural Resources said, under these recommendations, we vote yes. Now, maybe if you get into the legal about that, that maybe recommendations don't have to be followed, but they should have been brought up. I did all my FOIA requests in Defiance County and never seen that. I never saw that paperwork. They wouldn't give me the yes vote paperwork. So I had my aunt who lives in Columbus down in Westerville. I call her and I coached her through it. I said, go down to the Department of Natural Resources and do this FOIA request. I told her exactly what to say. And she got we got a stack of paperwork. And I sat there in my office at the ice house and I just went through it one by one. Bam, there's that yes vote. And there's these recommendations. I handed it to Bryan one morning. I said, look at this, Bryan. Where'd you get that? Well, I got it in Columbus. And he got on the horn and he started working on, and that, I think that's about the time, or maybe it was when we found out that Defiance County, they asked for more money. They wanted each county to pitch in another $35,000. And Bill and I, old Bill Stockinger, he said, you know what, we've been to every damn meeting. When did they spend that money? We've never seen a resolution. So down to Defiance County we go. We turned in a FOIA request. We want to see the resolutions where they spent the money. Well, here Defiance County been doing it down there in their own meetings. Our guys weren't even there. Now, the problem with that is, why didn't our guys ask that question? So here all this money got spent, and then we start looking at the bills. Well, heck, if you're going to spend Williams County money, you might as well pay for that ad you ran in the newspaper looking for a custodian and a clerk for your commissioner's office and some other thing, Job and Family Services. I mean, it was only $219, but still. And then we also looked on there, that's where they paid their legal fees for their Shoemaker, Loop, and Kendrick. Well, that, you can't pay a bill that predates the doggone petition. So that's what won the case. I think we had seven points of injunction, and that was one of them. Not to mention that, you know, they did a lot of other things. They didn't let us talk at the View and this and that. But I guess my point is that that's what won the case. It wasn't because you know, I do remember one thing. The judge was really mad that the counties had spent $90,000 fighting this little guy from Williams County who had hair down his shoulders and wore Rolling Stones shirts to the meetings. So when they spent $90,000, Bill and I spent $20,000. We still have $20,000 in a 501c3, Citizens for the Preservation of Lick Creek. And whether I get elected or not, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to let this fight go. I'll take that money and I'll buy my own water testing kits. So whatever we got to do, I'll be there.
Bryan, why did it take that long? Why did it take that many years and that many dollars to finally come to the conclusion that was reached?
It was just, I mean, it was the process. And, you know, you'd go and you'd have a meeting and you'd have a tie, and then ODNR had 30 days for them to come up, break the tie. You'd have another meeting, you'd have another point. We'd argue things that was going on and stuff, and you'd turn around and you'd end up having another vote, and you'd have another 30 days. And then you'd go for a period of time where you wouldn't even have meetings. Yeah. So it just was a long process.
How is the relationship nowadays between Defiance County Commissioners and Williams County Commissioners?
Excellent. Excellent. Because we have three brand new commissioners.
Three brand new commissioners.
Okay. Yeah. Which sometimes can be helpful.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I mean, yeah, we have a very good relationship with them. They're very cordial.
Would you have said the same about the group of commissioners that were there at that time? Was that part of the problem? Or did they not get along all that well?
Careful on the radio. Don't use words like that.
I think the issue is that, as Scott said, they were doing things that were deceptive. Number one, and number two is that they believed that they were always right, and even in contradiction with the revised code, they believed they were right.
Yeah. The county. Let's move on, guys. Is there anything else that's left to be said from either side? The county commissioners, and this will be the last question. We'll take a break after this one. Basically, you've decided right now to cancel the sale of a couple parcels of land there at Hillside Country Living. Can you explain that a little bit to us, Bryan? And Scott, I'd like your opinion on should we, shouldn't we, are we doing the right thing?
Well, the land's owned by Hillside. There's actually 80 acres roughly just on the north side of Updike Park. And during our meetings, because the three commissioners are on the board of directors for Hillside, we talk about Hillside and how we can make Hillside more attractive to our residents. And then we also talk about, in the future, what will our residents' needs be. Obviously, we are in a time where we are more technically savvy. We are generally somewhat more healthier. We're more active in our lifestyles. So we need to take at what we do at Hillside and take a look at what we need to change in anticipation in the next 5 and 10 years when the baby boomers start to come and use the facility and things like that and stuff. Well, there's two ways you can do it. You can just go out and borrow money and increase debt, or you can sell assets. We have an 80-acre piece of land that we believed was in the best interest of selling because it was in CRP. We were not making any money off of it. We're actually paying tax on it, and that we could use that money to help pay down debt and be able to turn around and reinvest back into the property where we have 110 residents staying. So that was, and we had a group of people, Colonel Stinky came up and had a conversation with us about the history and things like that. And another group, Scott, came up and talked about, you know, not wanting us to sell the land. Some of them even said, we'll even try to raise the money to buy it. We just decided just to let it set, and the CRP contract on it runs out September of next year. We can have a discussion then.
Scott, your side of the story?
Part of the problem on that whole thing is, I think Ron was, you were covering that.
Yep.
Ron got it in the paper. That's the only thing that got me involved. I don't know how I happened to read the paper that day, because I don't always have a chance to read the paper. I saw that and I thought, what on earth are we selling land connected to a park for? This day and age, when the county, if we're going to go buy property, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pay double. That's just the way it goes. We paid double for that land in 1873. It was $173 an acre back when land was selling for, I believe, $55 an acre. So I see this, we're selling this land, and so I go up to Commissioner, I kind of watched the paper a little bit. We had some people complain about, there's about 30 acres of woods there, and there's about 50 acres of farmland there. And they got the little airport where they fly their little remote control airplanes out there. They got a chunk of that. So why are we selling this land, I asked. And Terry Rummel tells me, he spoke up, he says it's a low-performing asset of the county. We're not farmers, we need to return it to the farming community. And so I can't argue that. I say, okay, if it's a low-performing asset, I still don't believe we should sell property in Williams County that Williams County residents own. We're gonna need it someday. But I did go to the recorder's office and I looked up what we, when we bought that, and it was, we were the third owners of that property. It was bought in, I think, 1873. And we paid that $170 an acre, I believe it was, for it. And I did okay. Today we're gonna sell it for a minimum of $3,500, maybe it was $4,000. I went to my banker buddy at Farmers Merchants. I said, Danny, I said, what kind of growth does that give us? We went from 170 an acre to 4,000. Of course, them bankers, you know, they got them special calculators, and he pulled it out and he starts doing his numbers, and it was about a 2.5% growth rate, I believe. Now, mind you, anytime the county puts money in the bank, Bryan could probably tell us better than I could. I believe you get what, about 0.5% interest on it?
Our CDs are performing at about 1.5.
Yeah, so a CD is 1.5. Now you got this property just reformed at over 2%. Not to mention, we're getting CRP. I believe that property is bringing in, I think it was $175 an acre. So is it lower than that?
Yeah, a lot lower. It's like $89 an acre. All of our CRP out there brings in a total of $15,000 under contract. $15,000 a year, but the problem with CRP is it's a lottery system, so you have no idea what you're going to get. You can get zero, you can get half.
You can. But 2% growth on your property, I wouldn't call that a low-performing asset, not to mention you're going to get your rental property out of it. And today, I do believe, you know, when you first put your land in CRP, it's higher than what you can rent land for typically. At the end of that 10 years, it's about the same. I mean, you get higher in the beginning, but it goes down. So anyway, I look at that and I said, well, why are we selling this property? I didn't agree with it. And then I got to looking at it. I did a FOIA request. I got the contract done by Brent Wilson. He's going to charge them a 10% buyer's premium to do property. Now, I've never heard of anybody doing a buyer's premium, number one. And I thought, that don't seem right. Well, you know, Wilson's, they do that bankruptcy stuff down in Toledo or whatnot, so that's probably common practice for them. But by God, all you got to do is pick up the phone and call a couple people and say, you know, Colonel Stanky, how much you charge to sell this land? Let's just say the courthouse blew over. We got to sell it. Get them a good reason. So I did the same thing. I called them. I called 3 different realtors. I say, I got a 50-acre spot out here I need to sell. How much will you charge me? It was all between 4% and 6%, which that's just their first price. You know you can Jew them down. So you're going to get it for about 5%. So here you got a company in Williams County that's going to double their money on us. Well, then they cut then they cut Carlin in on the deal too. So now they split it 5 and 5. We're going to have 2 companies do it, and we're still getting charged double what any of you people out here would pay to have that sale. And I thought that stunk. And so I called these realtors and I let them know what's going on. At the next meeting, we had, what, 7 realtors up there, probably 25 other people. I believe the political wind just shifted, and that property didn't sell. Couldn't believe it. So that in a nutshell, is what happened with that chunk of land.
Let me address it.
Sure.
First of all, the buyer's premium, the 10% buyer's premium is the responsibility of the purchaser, not the county. The second thing is that any real estate salesman or broker who brought a qualified individual who ended up buying the property would receive commission out of that 10%. So any realtor in Williams County or anywhere would have brought somebody. So the county was not paying the 10%. The only thing the county would have paid for would have been for the advertising, because in any real estate contract, you're going to be paying for the advertising, because if the property doesn't sell, the realtor doesn't want to take a loss.
Sure. So, if the property didn't sell, I believe the realtor was still going to get some cabbage.
In some cases, yeah.
In that contract.
Not in our contract, no.
I have it out in my car.
Well, you can go get it. It's 0.
All right. We need to take our last break.
For over 40 years, Bryan, Ohio has been home to the only import vehicle repair specialist in Northwest Ohio, Suburban Auto. Whether it's an Asian or European vehicle, Suburban has the knowledge and experience to keep your import or domestic car running strong. Do you have a hybrid vehicle that's acting up? Suburban is your one-stop hybrid repair shop. Don't be fooled by the one-size-fits-all repair shops. There is no substitute for experience. Come see the import repair pros, Suburban Auto.
Come join us at the Williams County Veterans Memorial Building in Montpelier on Saturday, November 10th for the 3rd annual Williams County Veterans Ball. This is a black tie event that helps raise money for our local veterans who are still in need. Tickets are still available at the Williams County Veterans Service Office in Bryan. You won't want to miss this premier event. Join us for a night of great food and dancing, all while honoring the reason we're there, the veterans. The Williams County Veterans Ball. Be there.
Last year, over 390 people in Ohio were killed because someone chose to get behind the wheel impaired. This is Lieutenant Bob Ashenfelder of the Ohio State Highway Patrol's Defiance Post. As part of the patrol's ongoing effort to contribute to a safer Ohio, troopers will continue an increased focus on impaired driving arrests in 2018. But we can't fight this battle on our own. We need your commitment to plan ahead by designating a sober driver or call for a ride. If you drink, don't drive.
BMU high-speed internet is now cheaper than ever. Now just $30 a month. That's $100 a year in savings. Get it with BMU Extended Basic Cable for all your sports, movies, and reality shows. Plus local programming, including high school sports and community events. Not to mention a local help desk and support team for when you need them. Now for the fine print. We don't have any. No contracts or hidden fees. Call BMU today at 419-633-6100 or visit us on the web at cityofbryan.net.
Back here on the Meet the Candidates side on the Q 96.5 FM. Guys, I'm going back to the streets for my last questions here for you, and then Ron has one more, and we'll try to get you out of here, okay? Because I think there were 2 more questions that I think I've had a lot of people ask me, and I feel like we'd be remiss not to ask them right now. Scott, for you, first of all, you've got a very successful carry-out business, okay? Part of that carry-out business has some paraphernalia or head shop type items.
We have no paraphernalia.
Okay, and there are some items there. I guess the way that person put it to me was asking why, if he gets elected as the county commissioner, is he still going to run that head shop he's got at his store?
Heck,
how's
by that time it's probably going to be legal. So
that's good. Everything in your store right now that you have is legal?
I sell nothing that's illegal in my store. It's a carry out. It's the nature of the business that it is.
Okay. And Bryan, the question that the same guy actually asked me for you guys. If Bryan Davis gets elected, we still have 3 Republican guys that all get together that are buddies, that are friends, and we've seen a little complacency in the last few years with some of the things like at Lick Creek or some places. What do we do to shake them up? And if we're sending another guy back, do we have a good old boys club here that's not going to get things done quite as well as what they should.
Well, I generally disagree with that premise. I think that we all generally enjoy working with our coworkers, and we generally are friends with our coworkers. And I don't think there's any reason why you think or should think that your government will be better if the commissioners are always fighting. At the end of the day, it isn't about us. It's about the citizens and their needs. So we sat down. There were times where we don't agree. I mean, Ron's been up there, Don's been up there. There's times that we don't agree. But we still talk and we work through the issues. And we decide what is in the best interest of the county and stuff. So, the fact that there's 3 Republicans sitting on that bench is indicative of the fact that the majority of this county is Republican by nature. And so I don't know what else to say other than I'm not going to dislike my coworkers for the purpose of re-election, or I just don't agree with the premise.
Scott, do you have something you want to say?
Did you run? You ran as an independent, is that right?
First time I did.
First time. Al Word ran as an independent. Is that right?
I think so.
Al Word was an independent. And this is the thing. If you run as an independent and you win, if you don't switch over to the Republican side, they get somebody to run against you. So every 4 years, you got to spend $8,000 to $10,000 to keep your job if you care about it that much. Not to say that I'm going to do that. I don't know what the future holds for me. So I believe that's the biggest thing. The Republican Party is strong in this. They get people to write letters and tell lies in the paper.
Okay.
That happened. That just happened last week.
All right.
I just want to make one comment, and not a comment about what he said. The reason I became or switched to become a Republican is when I decided to run for county commissioner, I was ignorant of the fact I didn't realize there was filing deadlines. And I missed the Republican filing deadline. My only other alternative was to run as an independent. And when I had people come up to me when I was at the fair and they asked me, I said, I'm a Republican that missed the filing deadline. I never made any bones about it. Never pretended to be any, and I'm not saying Scott is, I'm just saying I never pretended to be anything but a Republican because that's what I am. That's what I've always been. I'm not ashamed of that.
Scott, I want to follow up with your lies question because obviously that's kind of a strong statement. So, before I let you go on that one, what was the lie that was told that from your point of view?
That was Patty Rocky's letter to the editor. She wrote in there that I told someone that she's voting for me. Truthfully, I mean, I don't know Patty Rocky that well. I've been up there to the recorder's office a couple times, but I'm not friends with her. I'm not enemies with her. But I certainly have no reason to say that she's voting for me. Heck, she's a Republican. She's in the courthouse. I have no idea why she would say something like that other than she's trying to diss me.
So was that a letter to the editor, Ron? Is that what I saw? I didn't see that letter.
And you know what? I've got a telephone. If she wanted to talk to me and say something, she could have. It was purely political.
Okay. And the quote was, guys, I didn't see that quote. Ron, maybe you can enlighten us on that one.
Well, tell her.
Okay.
Well, I don't remember exactly how it said, but she said I told somebody. She didn't name who in the newspaper.
You told that Scott
LaRoe
told somebody
a
that
friend of hers,
okay,
that she was going to vote for me.
Okay. Okay. So to make the record straight, Patty Rocky doesn't look like she's going to vote for Mr. LaRoe here. At this point
I would say that's probably for sure.
All right.
Well, heck, who knows what somebody does in the ballot box?
It's always whatever they want to do in the ballot box, they're allowed to do. That's the nice part of the country that we have. With that, I'd like to thank Bryan and Scott both from my side. That's all the questions I'm going to have. Ron has one more, and then we'll wrap things up.
One last question. How much have you spent on your campaign, Scott and Bryan? Scott first.
Wait a second. I think the appropriate answer is you can check Thursday at the Board of Elections when we do our filings.
I certainly wouldn't be able to give you a exact number right now. I think there's somewhere in, I don't know, Teresa, $4,000 or $5,000. How much we spent so far? 3 or 4 or 5?
Yeah, probably 6,500.
Less than 5,000.
Yeah.
Do you have an estimate, Bryan?
my filings will be available Thursday at the Board of Election. I don't know, my treasurer, who is my wife, is putting all the documents and stuff in and stuff. So I don't really know.
Okay,
So.
good.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
Anything,
gentlemen.
anything else, Ron?
We
Okay.
want to thank you both for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. I'm sure you'll stay after if anybody in the audience has some questions for you. Again, thanks to Tine Winery and Tap House, BMU TV, TV 26, the Bryan Times, and Q96 WQCT. We thank you, the Bryan Chamber, and we're out.